Today's episode is really interesting, and I want to let you know that this is, again, an indictment of our giant systems. In this case, once again, we're talking about hospitals, health insurance, provider behavior, lack of accountability, conspiracy to misbehave and blame it on the patient. It's a shit show. And this poor woman and her family, Reasa, and her family have endured and are still enduring the cost and misery of medical institutions' lack of quality care. And again, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, so I'm going to just give you my opinion and some of the words that I would use to describe this situation as disgraceful, disgusting, conspiracy, incompetence, negligence, malpractice, and a whole host of other nice words to describe how the institutions not only kill people or nearly kill people, but destroy the fabric of a family and a young man's future and a community. And let's hear from Reasa. Reasa, could you just kind of summarize the events that brought us here today?
Yeah. So in 2023, December 2023, we took our 11-year-old on December 14th to Southlake Methodist Hospital. He had the flu. We knew he was probably getting a little dehydrated. We went to Methodist because they're local. We trusted them. So we go, he gets an IV. They offer us some Tamiflu or whatever. We just said, we're not going to take that. He's healthy. We'll be fine. So we go home. A day or two later, he starts to feel better, does well. 18th or 19th of December, we go and do some volunteer work. He's doing great. Then on the 22nd, he started feeling really bad. And then 23rd, he was really bad. I mean, he could barely walk down the stairs. And he was saying how he felt confused or dizzy. And so, text our pediatrician. She said, why don't y'all go back to the hospital? So we did. We went back to Methodist because we trusted him. And we're there for an hour and 40, 50 minutes or so, not quite 2 hours. And they give him an IV. And at one point, the nurse came in and said, we need a urine sample. Nicholas says, I can't pee. He's just laying on the bed, very lethargic. And I said, can we still get the lab results? And she said, I'll be back. And she goes and she comes back and she said, the doctor said it's just a virus and that he can go home. And so she starts putting us out the door. And, oh, okay, it's a virus. Okay. So we go home, and Christmas morning is, 2 days away. And our oldest son came home from school, and he's 22, and he says, hey, Mom, I have to wake him up because it's Christmas morning, and my gut is telling me. And I was like, he really wants to sleep. And he said, no, I'm telling you, I need to wake him up. And so he went ahead and woke him up. We get him downstairs finally, and it was hard to get him downstairs. And we're like, Nicholas, doctor said you just have a virus. You need to eat. You need to try to get some fluid. And he's like, Mom, I really don't feel good. And so I said, okay, let me take your blood pressure because he's still complaining of being dizzy. And I thought, man, this thing must be broken or needs new batteries because it was so low. And then I turned and looked at him, and he was gray and yellow.
Jaundiced.
Yeah. And I thought, God, he just has a virus. Maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. This whole incident has really caused me to think about, how people, what they tell you messes with your mind. But so we called our pediatrician at home, and she said, take him to Cook's. And so we did. And as we pull up, my husband pulls up to the ER, and they're waiting on us. And we start to put Nicholas in a wheelchair. And he said, Mom, please don't leave me. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not leaving this hospital until you do. And I'm thinking, we're going to be there maybe overnight. No way that we're that sick. And we go in, and within about 5 minutes, we have a room full of doctors and nurses and pharmacy, everything. And my mind couldn't wrap around. And they just said he's in septic shock. And so that's where it really started. And from there, it was Nicholas was on a ventilator. He vomited a pint of blood.
I'm so sorry.
He, talked about seeing Jesus and that he was okay if he died and that things would be okay. And I couldn't understand what was happening. And we went through surgeries after surgery. Every day was kind of crazy. And then about day 11, I finally asked somebody, I said, I need someone to help me understand what happened. How did we go from this is a virus to...
The flu to septic shock.
And so the doctor pulled me aside and he said, I want to show you something. And he starts showing me the labs and said he was not okay on the 23rd. And I was pissed because giving him antibiotics or treating him or telling us, being truthful with us, could have saved us a lot of misery and saved him a lot of pain and suffering that he didn't need to go through. And learning that, I started down this path. Obviously, we were there till almost the 1st of February. And I started on a path of, why did this happen? How do we prevent it? And I quickly learned all of the roadblocks that come with that. People just shutting you down. And that just fueled my fire even more.
And what was the reason they didn't give even a minimal amount of treatment at Methodist the first 2 visits, right? Mm-hmm. Antibiotics, something.
On the first visit, my assumption is they didn't give him antibiotics. He tested positive for the flu. The second visit, I couldn't tell you why that she couldn't do the basic parts of her job. They did receive the federal violations, the EMTALA violations for failure to treat, but no one's ever reached out to tell me why.
What's the motive for this malpractice? What's in your head when you're going back trying to figure this all out? And obviously institutions want to cover their own ass and, protect the guilty. And so, how do you function through all this? Because I would have been berserk.
Come close to being berserk. What we want out of this is a couple of things. We want transparency and accountability. But as a mom, my conscience will not let me allow this to happen to someone else. If I was going to just not say anything and the next kid died, how am I going to feel? Like I can't carry that. And so we want to fight back for those reasons. But also, Nicholas is going to have very long-term...
continuous care.
Yeah, he's going to need it. It may not be today and we are going back and forth to Mayo, but why should I have to pay for all of this? Why should I be paying for this when they did this? They didn't do their part, and yet they billed us and they got paid, but
they're good at billing. They probably got paid more.
Yeah, there are a lot of angles here, right? Mm-hmm. There's billing, there's what they should have done, what they could have done, what they didn't do. There are so many little parts to this scandal, and that's what it is. And to me, that the only way to deal with scandal is to, really put a bright light on it.
That's been my goal.
Right. And I certainly would like to help. I think it's a crime, in my opinion, to let an institution and faulty, inadequate medical providers stick around the system because they've done it before. It's not just your case.
No, it's not just our case.
It can't be, because it's like these people you find out in the nursing homes that, why did Mary Sue die? And then years later they find out that, some crazy nurse was offing them because of whatever.
Crazy.
But I this kind of incompetence and misdiagnosed, I'm trying to understand on the second visit when your son couldn't urinate and they showed you, and they got labs, other labs, blood tests, they had to know.
They did.
And I just can't get beyond that. That's the point. Like, thank God you got your son to Cook's, and thank God. And, I just can't get beyond that. Like, here are labs, and did this doctor even...
She signed off on them, so we can only assume that she looked at him. His EKG showed a long QT, and he should have had a cardio consult at minimum if she wanted to look at nothing else. But instead, the only thing she was focused on was no STEMI. She changed what the result was that came in, and she changed it to no STEMI, that he wasn't having a heart attack. But she disregarded everything else. So either that's a lack of pediatric training, or she just didn't really give a shit.
Yeah. It's a holiday.
Right. Holiday time. And so my push is that is criminal.
So this person's still working there.
Yep.
This person has or hasn't been cited for quality control, so to speak.
Has not.
And
That is their standard of care then.
okay.
It's the only thing you
It
could
would
think
have
it
to
could be.
Yeah.
And
It's
now
embarrassing.
get into the Nicholas law that you were trying to get passed.
Yeah, so Nicholas's law that we were working on in the last legislative session, we wanted to push for these ERs that are adult focused, that they need a disclaimer. They need to be able, there's a sign that says we are not pediatric certified. That doesn't necessarily mean that people won't go there, but it gives us parents a second thought to go, wait a minute, maybe I do need to go to Cook's. Maybe I need to go to a children's hospital. And it was just a moment that would let you stop and think. Because as parents, when our kids are sick, we want them to get better. And the next bill that we're working on with Senator Parker, along with Nicholas's law, is a sepsis protocol bill that would implement fines for not following it. And these providers are held accountable because right now, even though HHS and CMS cited the hospital with 2 deficiencies and notated that in the peer review done by the hospital, that the doctor was found to be responsible for not identifying sepsis, nothing was done. There's no report. So we're passing the trash.
Well, accountability doesn't...
Negligence is what it's called.
Again, I'm going to go back to a different industry and an example, right? Banks, they do things that are inappropriate, illegal, not within the framework of the regulators' rules. And it's a very simple formula they have. If we make $10 billion, a $2 billion fine doesn't mean anything. So, hunting for accountability is, it's part financial, it's part, feel good, emotional. And from a practical standpoint, getting accountability is a pretty hard core thing because that has to do with the morality and discipline and work ethic of the people involved in the problem. So
we realize that, in my opinion, we are a cost of doing business for Methodist. Us, and I think there's 25 other pending lawsuits against Methodist right now, malpractice. That these are just line items for them. And as I comb through all the cases, I've read every one of them that they have pending and some that they have recently closed. They are paying for people's silence. And it's going to take more than that for me.
Question, Methodist, you said 25 open cases.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Okay, well,
Well, I got to say I believe.
I believe. Well, I believe you're probably right. And I believe you're probably right that they pay more for silence, or like you say, just, if I could sweep the trash under the carpet, the trash doesn't exist until somebody trips over the carpet.
Yeah.
But that being said, how does that stack up to, have you looked to see if it stacks up against other hospital systems
I did.
in the area?
I actually did an entire research on how they rank among other hospitals in the state of Texas as far as malpractice suits. What I found was Methodist has roughly 1,900 beds through their entire system. So Methodist Dallas. And based on per bed, they are the most litigious hospital in the entire state, is what I gathered from my data. And at last count, I believe it was 25 open malpractice cases. From my understanding and belief, is that we're only the second suit for them to withdraw their Chapter 74 objections, which is to dispute the expert. The other one was a DNR case. And I mean, they go after all the technicalities. Yeah.
So how do you feel after not just going through this with your son, but how do you feel now about all this information? You said you knew the president, and you knew the people, and you felt comfortable, and you felt protected, and you felt loyal because they support the community, they're in the community.
Betrayal. This was one of the worst feelings of betrayal, not only from Methodist as a whole, but that a doctor looked me in the face and they lied to me, and I took that as the truth, and it nearly cost me my son's life. And the mom guilt that I had to carry for a long time, that I didn't trust my gut, was a lot. And that was a lot for me to overcome. And again, that just fuels more of why this whole thing is wrong, because they put it all on me.
Right.
What would you hope for in terms of community support? I mean, you said that earlier when we were talking that, hey, Methodist supports the community to a very large extent. They're very generous. They put a good front on. And there are a lot of people in the community that do some kind of business or have some kind of relationship with Methodist. How do you want to smoke out some more support locally in your community and on a broader scale?
What would be most beneficial if people start telling their stories? Stop being scared to talk and tell us what the stories are. Let us know. I don't need community support to continue my mission. I would love it, but is it required? Absolutely not. I know that I'm doing the right thing, and that's enough for me. But would it be helpful? Yes. But I've gotten hundreds of messages of people, similar stories or similar things that happen at Methodist, some with the same doctor, some with not. And I say, hey, do you want to file a complaint? No, we saw what happened to you. I mean, people have come after me.
I get it, but if you're the front man, front woman, and people are acknowledging similar circumstances or just support because of what you had to go through, can't that be converted into some kind of political energy?
I think so. And I think in our longer term plan, we want to work on something with, looking at something with Texans for ethical accountability, and that we will turn it into that. One thing that's happening right now as far as the community is concerned is we're grateful Nicholas didn't die, but people tend to just let it go because, he looks okay now. And so they go on with their lives. Yeah, because he didn't
die, so everything's good.
And they get to go on with their lives, but we spend our summer vacation going to the Mayo Clinic, right? We spend our time doing things that they have robbed
You're
from
lucky
us.
you still have the resources to do that.
We are very fortunate, and we know that. We are extremely blessed to be able to do all those things.
I can't get beyond this. It's such a disgusting.
You know, Alan, if when I did find out and Methodists knew, we could have resolved this a long time back. But they dug in their heels and they forced me into having to fight back.
What about the third party provider, the emergency room doctors?
We didn't realize she was a third party provider until after
sure.
obviously, when we're in the getting into the suit. But there's nothing on her Texas Medical Board record, even though she's named in a federal violation. There is.
Can you publish that federal violation?
I have, Alan, and you can find that, and I can send it over. But we've been very transparent, and we want people to know because no one else is talking about it.
Well, I mean, you're not speaking in detail about your litigation. I just think that whatever public records you have or obtained, that they'd be handy for other people to see.
Yeah, so we do have that. We have a website, reasaspieces.com, and everything is there. Our story is there. There's a blog post about how if I would have done what she would have done, we would be in jail. I would be in jail, right? And so I've been very transparent. Methodist doesn't want to be, but I am.
Methodist has reason not to be.
Of course.
You know, by your example and the other 24 examples that go with it.
Yeah.
So that's clear. Tim, how, other than hearing this and being, dumbfounded and disgusted, what could we do to help advance your cause?
I think sharing our story, helping people know really what's being done here, right? They're not disclosing this. They're not treating patients. And then they have that 22-year-old that died at another Methodist in DFW, almost had very identical symptoms as Nicholas. Lab work is very similar, but the young man died.
Was it the same ER?
Not the same ER, but the system.
Same third party provider?
Yes. And all he needed was antibiotics.
Right. Well, that's all your son needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wouldn't...
And likely the IV is what improved him for those series of days in between.
So, you know, they have these things called PACs,
Yeah.
right? It's a great political tool. All you have to do is raise some money. It's kind of gray in terms of the money that goes into these things. And PACs and super PACs yield a lot of power, a lot of weight, because they have that resource. Is there a thought in your head about, making a political impact here? Because that's the only way you're going to get the Texas Medical Board to pay attention, the institutions to pay attention. When they start getting some pushback and some pressure, then they might think differently about how they behave. But they're not going to do that until there's pressure. And one party, one family, unless they're Elon Musk, can't put up that kind of, resource to pressure them.
So we absolutely are thinking about going down that path. We've had someone come and offer us $1 million to start it. And I'm like, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. They're like, you're a really good spokesperson for this mission. And that is our intent at some point to get that off the ground and do that. Fighting back, even with Texas Medical Board or any of these other things that have had to go down, I'm still doing it currently out of my own pocket. I've driven to Austin more than once to catch a lawmaker in the hallway because Texas Medical Board blowing off our case and saying the expert panelist said that he looked good, so we're dismissing it is absolute shit. And
You could say that as loud as you want. Here.
I try to,
You don't have to mince,
And it, when I heard that in a board meeting, I was appalled because that tells me they not only didn't read the case or any of the documents, they didn't even read the basic federal violation that names her.
No, because they got a phone call from somebody that
It's
said,
already determined.
don't fuck with this case.
So what I did in turn was we sent out, I'm probably about 10 certified packets to every regulatory agency and
member on the board.
Everybody, health and safety committee, with
Okay,
all the
good.
documents, with everything. And,
Good.
They can't say they didn't know.
But again, there's no action taken until they feel pressure.
We're working on it.
Yeah, it's sad to say.
It's true, which is why the media has been so helpful.
Yeah, and even things that you have on your website, try to get them published in newspapers. Try to get some of these documents, and I would urge you to raise the money for the PAC because the PAC lets people kind of give quietly.
Yeah.
Join quietly, but also gives you the ability to buy that space and begin the crusade, because it's not just one mom.
Yeah.
You can't look at it that way. That's the one maybe argument I have with you. It's virtuous. It's great that you're that dedicated. Obviously, it's your boy, but I think that to really push that ahead, you need to have all kinds of resources at your fingertips. And that's a strong, not the mom backbone, but a structural backbone that can help fight this thing. There's got to be a legislator out there that's saying, hey, this is wrong. Hey, this Texas Board of Doctors, maybe this is a fraud. Maybe they're just not doing their job. What do we need to restructure here? Who do we need to punish? Who do we need to, what rules do we need to change? What
was interesting was, and we are working with legislators, and I do agree that a PAC is where we're headed. But when we filed for the Freedom of Information Act to find out the expert credentials is all we were really looking for on who reviewed the case, we got nothing back. They said it's all confidential. And I'm baffled because who was their what were they expert in? And it's $30 million. This is what they're managing over there.
Private detective will figure out who those people are and what their credentials are.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, the Angry Alan Show here is a forum for people to get angry and have communication and benefit from that anger. And so is yours, but there's nothing closer to all of our hearts and our children and failure there. And like other people that have been on the show, you're trying to make a difference for the world, for society. This is a loving anger designed to benefit other people rather than just yourself.
Yeah.
That is
so
true.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
I think and stay in touch with us. And
yeah.
I think that, we like to help people take action. We like to get their story out. But I would urge you to get whatever public information you have and publish it everywhere and anywhere.
In any way we could help you on that, because people
that.
talk about linking and things of that nature, we'd be super happy.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you back on. And
we want to walk this walk with you.
I appreciate that because this is really about everybody. This is not just us. This is anybody that needs to ever go to a hospital.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're talking to a guy. spend my vacations in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming
Yeah.
on,
Thank
and
you.
we look forward to seeing you on
Yeah.
a new episode with a really positive update. You're on your way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we support you 100%.
Thank you very much for
And
having
we
Love
me.
your
wish
heartfelt anger.
And we wish Nicholas well. And yeah,
Thank you.
this really has me pissed off.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.